Welcome, everybody. Looks like we have a full house. Not really. Thank you all for taking the time to come tonight. I appreciate it immensely. So we'll kick off this Waxhaw Town Board of Commissioners meeting for this February 10th, 2026. Can I get everyone to rise for the presentation of our colors and a moment of silence to give thanks and praise?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Are there any adjustments or amendments to the agenda tonight? Hearing none, then, can I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Tonight's agenda is now adopted. Next up, we have general public comments. We only have one this evening who has signed up, so I would invite Miss Judy Davis. 3 minutes are yours to use as you wish.
3 minutes. I'm carrying a message for Gladys McCain Carr. She lives 45 minutes from here. I live 45 seconds. And if I'm old, and if something happens to me, my grandsons are playing basketball in their driveway and flying a drone. They can come rescue this old lady. But I wanted to say thank you for the way you did your meeting last time. It was incredible. You met us at ground level, and I loved it. Y'all are doing good. Just from an old lady citizen. This is from Gladys. A public request on behalf of Gladys McCain Carr. She's 91. She went to school with my mom. And Esther. This is her friend Esther Heath Massey Prince. Prince is her husband's reverend. He was a Presbyterian pastor. She'll be 92 on February 28th. And Gladys said, Esther Heath Massey Prince grew up on Main Street on the other side of Hicks Road near the hotel and wanted to pay for signs and see if they could change the street name from Hicks to Massey Heath. And Massey Heath was her father and uncle and brother and all this stuff of the A.W. Heath Hardware cotton gin that he ran, and she just wanted to honor and memorialize that name. But I talked to the DOT. I gave a copy of these numbers to DOT. He's going to give it to historian Janet, the downtown Waxhaw person, and I got a copy of the mayor, and it's Gladys's phone number, and with all the details. Her friend will pay for the sign change. And, you know, that's half the battle is getting the funding, but I know there's a process with DOT, and I don't know if the name Hicks was because a family name and it can't be done, or if it was like my cousins used to say on Rehoboth Road. The city slickers, me from Charlotte, never called them Hicks, but they would say, yeah, you're coming to visit the Hicks. So I don't know where the name Hicks came from, but she wants to change it to Massey Heath from the Heath, A.W. Heath family name and all that stuff. Let's see. I think that's it. Any more details, get it from Gladys, who is the professor and can speak on this. I'm just carrying the message. And I got 25 seconds. I give up 24 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Oh, here's the copy. I got 20 seconds to run it up there.
I'll take that. Thank you. All righty. At this time, I'd like to ask the Board of Commissioners if they have any response or questions or comments or answers to anything presented this evening.
I thank you for coming out and for the kudos, and I guess we'll just wait and see if the Hicks family show up with pitchforks or not.
Yes, that's generally our indication as to whether or not to change the road name. All righty, so next up, consent agenda. Are any adjustments or amendments to the consent agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion carries. Thank you. Moving right along. All righty, recognition. We have a Public Service Department recognition. This one was kind of foreseen with our last recognition at Public Services with the retirement of Mr. Todd Matthews. Obviously, we cannot leave that seat vacant, so we got a guy who's been around, hell, I don't want to say almost as long as Todd, but.
Almost as long as Todd. I'd like to introduce our new Public Service Director, Matt Cohn, into the position, but not new to the town, has been with us for over 20 years now, and is the right person for the job. Matt has already demonstrated great leadership here in the town, both with staff, and when you talk to the other parts of the leadership team, nothing but cooperation and a willingness to work with. So we have the right person in Matt. So I want to present Matt and welcome him to the team. Thanks, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mr. Todd Matthews and Mr. Scott, town manager, for the opportunity to reach this goal. And I'm excited about my new role and ready to give it my all. Thank y'all. You want to take it, Scott? Oh, got to take care of Brad.
All right, thank you.
It's nice to know the town is in such good, qualified, and capable hands, as well as someone who's so familiar with the town and the staff. So thank you, Matt. I know you're going to do great. Next up, we have a presentation. Mr. Rossi.
Good evening. My name is John Floyd. I'm an attorney with Moore & Van Allen. I'm here on behalf of Pulte Group. I'm joined by Dan Rossi, who is Pulte's Vice President of Land Planning and Development. We appreciate your time this evening. Just wanted to talk to you about some of the issues that Pulte is having with the installation of a traffic signal at the corner of Rehoboth and North Carolina 75 and the impact that that is having on their Forest Creek subdivision. Just to give you a little background, the Forest Creek subdivision was originally approved back in August of 2020 pursuant to a zoning petition that was filed by Waxhaw Ventures LLC, but Pulte purchased the property in August of 2023 and began development. The original zoning approval included several required traffic improvements, including the installation of a traffic signal at Rehoboth and North Carolina 75, and Pulte has addressed everything except for that traffic signal. At this point, all the infrastructure is in for the development. Utilities are there for approximately 200 home sites that are was originally approved as phases 1 and 2 of Forest Creek. That is kind of the northern portion of the site plan here. 25 homes have been constructed and 7 families have moved in and now call Forest Creek home. But unfortunately, there have been delays in the installation of the traffic signal at Rehoboth and North Carolina 75. So Pulte has had to pause development on Forest Creek, which is detrimental to the success of the development and not ideal for the current residents. Down at the bottom, you'll see on this slide, that is the development area right off Rehoboth, and up to the north is the intersection that we're talking about at 75. For your reference, this is a close-up aerial of the intersection, and you see a railroad crossing owned by CSX right next to the intersection. Because of that crossing, installation of this signal requires coordination amongst NCDOT, CSX, and Pulte. Now, when the traffic impact analysis was performed back for part of that 2020 rezoning, it showed 17 crashes in a 5-year period. This intersection was the third highest instances of crash of all the intersections that were studied as part of that TIA. And so I think we completely understand the reason that that condition was included in the zoning. But the coordination required for that signal with CSX and the NCDOT has been going on for almost 2.5 years. And there is still work left to do. If you look at a timeline of what has transpired, I think it demonstrates that this is not a situation where Pulte has waited till the end to start the process or has not been diligent in trying to get this signal installed. As I mentioned before, they purchased the project back in August of 2023. And by October of 2023, they had hired Kimley Horn, who is a reputable design firm and has experience with these types of issues, and begun working with NCDOT on the signal installation. In 2024 and the first part of 2025, that time was spent designing plans for the signal installation and negotiating agreements with CSX to allow the signal installation, and Pulte paid all the fees that were required by CSX. Then in May of 2025, NCDOT, CSX, Kimley Horn, and Pulte got together for a pre-construction meeting to discuss the signal installation. And for the first time, someone from CSX raised an issue with their existing equipment. The crux of it was that additional design and internal approvals from CSX were required to get that signal installed, and a pretty significant delay would occur. That was a shock to Pulte. They thought they had done everything they were supposed to do. They had hired a reputable design firm to help them in the process, competent consultants to assist them, and quite frankly, they took it and moved on to try and find the solution. So where we are today is that NCDOT has approved the new preliminary design of the intersection. CSX is in the process of reviewing those plans, preparing construction drawings, and developing a cost estimate for the signal installation. We expect that to be completed around May of this year. At that point, Pulte, NCDOT, and CSX will negotiate and sign a tri-party agreement for the signal installation, and Pulte will be required to put into escrow 1.5 times the estimated cost of that signal installation. Equipment will then be ordered and installation will occur. Now, based on the conversations with NCDOT and CSX, Pulte expects the signal installation to be completed sometime in the summer of 2027, almost 4 years after they started the process. Given the delay and the impact on Forest Creek, Pulte has been considering options to address the signal at the Rehoboth and North Carolina 75 intersection. They can't make CSX move any faster, but they can, with your help, go ahead and take action to improve the safety at that location and avoid having a development sit dormant for 18 months with just a few families living in it. After considering options with the assistance of their traffic engineer, Pulte is proposing to temporarily close the small section of Rehoboth between North Main Street and South Main Street, where the railroad crossing is located, and temporarily turn that intersection into a 3-legged intersection. Pulte would go ahead and install a signal for the northbound traffic on Rehoboth and east and westbound traffic on North Carolina 75. They would post a bond to cover the installation of that 4th leg so the town has certainty that the money is there when that occurs. They would not seek any new COs for new homes in the development for a period of 6 months to provide time for the 3-legged installation to occur. And after that point, they would ask the town to release only 5 COs per month. Again, based on conversations with CSX and NCDOT, Pulte believes that 18 months is a reasonable period of time to get this done. But if the signal isn't installed within 18 months, there would not be any new COs issued without coming back to this board. So what they are asking for is a 6-month moratorium on COs and then 5 a month for 12 months and 60 homes to keep the development moving, to allow incremental development, so you're not just sitting there with a completely dormant development for 18 months. There's a few benefits that we see with this proposal. First is just to immediately address the problematic intersection. Our understanding is that there is a safety concern there, and although we can't fix it, or can't fix that fourth leg, we can certainly try to go ahead and make things better. Second, again, what we're trying to do is propose a balanced approach that would allow gradual progress on that development while we wait on CSX to finish installing the signal. With that limit on COs, Pulte can't go and build quickly, but they can show some small incremental development in a responsible way to help keep that development going until the traffic signal installed. Obviously, with any road closure, there is some consequence to that, some delay that occurs. People that normally use that small segment will be impacted, but fortunately, it is pretty close to other major intersections that allow access between those two roads, so hopefully the inconvenience is limited. And then finally, again, with the bond, you get a guarantee that that signal will be installed. That's really all I have. Again, we're just trying to find a reasonable solution to a problem that works for everyone. Pulte is certainly open to other ideas, but that's what we came up with to try and get this traffic signal installed as quickly as possible, and again, allow some incremental development to occur. With that, happy to answer any questions you might have. Again, I've got Dan Rossi here if there's things I can't answer, but just thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? All righty. Well, thank you very much for your
Thank
time. Next up, we have some old business. Bradley, presentation.
Good evening, board. I'm Bradley Lucor, your Public Information Officer and Communications Manager for the town of Waxhaw. Tonight, we're presenting the town's legislative priorities, also referred to as project advocacy, for your review and direction. Tonight's presentation incorporates your feedback from the last work session, and you should all have a copy of the one sheet at your spot on the dais. So, what is project advocacy? Project advocacy is the town's initiative to identify, prioritize, and advocate for legislative changes, policy actions, and capital project funding with the state legislature, ensuring alignment with the town's strategic goals and community needs. Why is it important? Project advocacy helps the town pursue state funding opportunities that reduce reliance on local tax dollars for major projects. It also allows the town to advance policy changes that improve operations, flexibility, and outcomes for the community. The presentation is organized in the order of the priorities that the board laid out at the work session. So you will see policy changes and you will see capital projects. So we'll start with number one, which is policy change. It is the restoration of down zoning authority. This is two bills, Senate Bill SB 587 and House Bill 170. Both do the same thing. If one passes in the Senate, then that would work. If one passes in the House, then that would work as well. So right now we have you down as supporting both of these bills. Capital projects. Number one on your capital projects list is the H.C. Nesbitt Park safety upgrades. This is $1.3 million total. This is comprehensive safety and security upgrades, including lighting and cameras for heavily used facilities. And you can see on the screen, we've got the breakout of the cost of that $1.3 million, $400,000 for the sidewalk lighting, $800,000 for the field lighting replacement, and $90,000 for the security camera system. Next up is the Waxhaw Skate Park repairs. This is $1 million that you'd be asking for the construction of phase one of the Waxhaw Skate Park. As you know, the park requires urgent repairs due to the aging facilities, and we'll need those immediately to maintain safety and keep the park open. Number 3 on the list is the Downtown Park Phase 3 improvements. You're looking at a total cost of $1.9 million. And that's broken out into 4 different sections. Making up that 1.9 million is 750,000 for shade structures, 300,000 for connectivity improvements, 455,000 for the amphitheater roof, and then another 400,000 for the emergency speaker system. Number 4 on the list was the pedestrian safety improvements, the downtown connection. This would connect downtown to the downtown economic centers, the downtown park, and the Waxhaw Learning Center. This would provide safe and accessible pathways linking neighborhoods in that area to the downtown area. That's a $2.5 million price tag on that one. Number 5 is the police department vehicles, 6 police cruisers, $360,000 to purchase and upfit 6 police cruisers for Waxhaw Police. Pretty straightforward on that one. And then number 6 is $125,000 for the Waxhaw Learning Center. This is for furnishings and materials, including tables, storage shed, fencing, raised garden beds, to fully outfit the new learning center to help provide educational and health and wellness programs for residents. So those were the top 6 capital projects that you all laid out at the work session. The rest of the capital projects on this list are in no particular order. So tonight, if you wanted to give us direction on an order, or if you're happy with the order that they're in, we would just ask for some direction on that.
Well, thank you, Bradley. Anything else to present then? It looks like you got a few more here.
If you would like to see the rest of the items that are on the list.
I have some comments.
Yeah,
and a
we
motion.
can jump to comments.
So at our last work session, this board clearly prioritized 6 items for our legislators. When we met with our state legislators, they specifically asked us not to send a long list and to keep our requests focused on safety and children. The proposed list has 15 items, which goes beyond what the board prioritized and what our legislators requested. I'm concerned that sending a longer list dilutes our message and works against the guidance we were given. If a general advocacy or informational document is helpful for our town's interactions with other audiences, that's a separate discussion, but it shouldn't be bundled with our legislative priorities. I also want to flag the skate park item. The board was very clear that our intent is to repair the existing skate park, not to commit to a multi-phase expansion project. The phrase phase 1 implies future phases and future commitments that this board has not approved. I move to approve the project advocacy legislative priorities with the following modifications. 1, limit the capital project submission to the 6 priority items identified by the board at the prior work session. 2, remove items 7 through 15 from the materials sent to state legislators. 3, revise the skate park item to remove the reference to phase 1.
Any other comments or questions? All righty. And this is something you're looking for board action on at this point?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to make modifications first, or do we want to take board action tonight based on the comments from Commissioner Daunt?
That's up to you.
Discussion to the board. Are we comfortable with the comments and the feedback that Commissioner Daunt provided regarding some of these changes?
Yeah, I think, they asked us to be clear with them and how we communicate, talking about the members of the General Assembly. Yep. And I think having a concise list for them is key to getting these projects funded or getting help with them. Definitely. So being clear, concise, kind of working with them and what they asked. When we ask stuff of other people, we expect the same in return. So I think Commissioner Daunt's approach is good, and I would, I can make a motion to approve the project advocacy as Commissioner Daunt has laid out. Or you already made the motion. I'll second that motion then.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so the motion has been made to accept the advocacy list as amended by Commissioner Daunt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? This motion carries. Thank you very much, Bradley. Next up, we have consideration the approval of the parking lease agreement.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. What we have in front of you is a request to authorize me to enter into a contract for what's called the Heinbaum lot, or the Howie Mine lot is the term of art that we usually use. So the financial impact is $6,000 annually, which reflects a base rate of around $500 a month, reimbursements of the owner's annual property tax bill, which is currently $17.40. Not bad, eh? It also, however, grants the town a right of first refusal should the owner decide to sell the property. That was at the direction of the board. And we have the ability on that lot. It's a 3-year lease as opposed to 1 year. That was the other condition we wanted to put on it. And we can modify the lot to increase the number of spaces. We're not completely sold on exactly where we are in the number of spaces, but we know it's more than the current.
Yeah,
So
we're close, yeah.
we're close, but the more importantly than that, in here, the owner allows us to do that. And that's that. And then the other direction from the board that we had was make sure that those costs to improvement don't exceed, what we're paying for it, so that it's a decent rate of return over 3 years. And so I think we can do that and live within those conditions. Laura, anything else to add?
Yeah, no, he agreed to everything we kind of outlined before, so it was great. And I think it's a solid lease, and so it'll be even better if we, make a few improvements and get more spaces. Oh, sorry.
Just move me out of the way.
Yes, yeah, I can. No, I don't have much to add, but he was great to work with and agreed to everything we discussed. So
Sounds good.
Is there anything else?
That's good news.
Yeah. So, and after the 3-year fixed term, it is an annual auto renewal with a 3% escalation, and then written 60 days notice if either party wants to get out of the contract. So it'll just kind of help standardize that as we move forward. So we're not kind of doing this every few years
All the time, right.
But the rate's fixed for 3 years.
Fixed for 3 years. Yeah.
Extra 3, which we think is a win.
Yeah.
Creates parking plus the addition of spaces, we think will help.
Exactly. Any questions or comments from the board?
I would just request, Mr. Mayor, if everything can go that easy, life would be good.
Yeah.
We do
you.
our best. Alrighty then, can I get a motion to authorize the approval of the parking lease agreement for the Heinbaum lot?
Motion to authorize the town manager and finance director to execute the parking lease agreement between the town of Waxhaw and Kenneth and Brian Heinbaum.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up, we have a second reading for an amendment to our ordinance regarding bikes and electric bikes and whatnot.
Mayor, board, good to see you again.
Likewise.
I know it says on here it's going to be Chief Wilson giving this, but you're going to have to settle for Lieutenant Womack this time. I apologize. So we're going to be looking at the ordinance again about the bicycles, recreational vehicles, the e-bikes, and the motorized recreational vehicles. Some of the good things that are in this ordinance that help out with citizens and police and the town. Going to be the definitions is going to be one. It clearly defines what these things are. The ordinance gives proper definitions for bicycles, recreation devices, motorized recreational devices, and e-bikes, and their different classifications, because there's a lot of different classifications because everything is motorized now. And I won't be surprised when they come out with motorized shoes so we don't have to walk. But it gives the places where these things can be used. On streets, operators must follow traffic laws, ride as far to the right as practicable, and may not ride more than 2 abreast except in designated bike lanes. On sidewalks, bicycles and non-motorized recreational vehicles are allowed except where posted, which is an important thing because we don't want people to have to read an ordinance and figure out what roads I'm not allowed to be on, what sidewalks I'm not allowed to be on. It's going to be posted out there so they can see it clearly. But electric bicycles, mopeds, motorized recreational devices, and motorcycles are prohibited on sidewalks. All sidewalk operators must yield to pedestrians, provide an audible signal before passing, and travel at a safe speed not exceeding 10 miles per hour. In town parks or greenways, all regulated devices are limited to a maximum speed of 15 miles per hour, and pedestrians always have the right-of-way. Bicyclists must ride single file and stay to the right when passing. Operators under the age of 16 are required to wear a properly fitted bicycle helmet. Bicycles and similar devices may only be left in designated racks or spaces to avoid safety hazards. The ordinance also establishes general safety and conduct standards which prohibit reckless operation, attaching to moving vehicles, like we don't want, like in Back to the Future, Marty McFly hanging on to the back of a Jeep getting pulled around town, and operating devices in areas where signage prohibits their use. For nighttime operation on streets, devices must have appropriate front lighting and rear reflectors or lights. And this ordinance addresses and repeals several older ordinances adopted between 1993 and 2014, when a lot of these things didn't even exist, and replaces them with a single, clear, and consistent set of rules.
Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you, Lieutenant Womack.
Thank you.
Good that we're clarifying these things. So with the second reading, I'd like to get a motion then to adopt the ordinance 2026-001 regarding bicycles and regulated devices.
Can make a motion to adopt the ordinance ORD 2026-001, amending the town code related to the operation of bicycles, electric bicycles, and regulated devices on town streets, sidewalks, parks, and greenways.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Wait, and before we approve it,
We were so close.
Read the whole thing.
Once you approve it, then you read the entire ordinance into the record.
That's what I thought. Okay.
All righty. Any opposed? I think I heard nobody.
Nope.
None opposed. Motion carries.
Did I just volunteer myself to read it?
Sounds like you did. Welcome to the board.
Right. Okay.
Exactly. Mike's next.
So bear with me. An ordinance amending the town code related to the operation of bicycles, electric bicycles, and regulated devices on town streets, sidewalks, parks, and greenways. Whereas the town is committed to ensuring all public streets, sidewalks, greenways, and parks remain accessible and compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and finds it necessary to update regulations governing bicycles, e-bikes, recreational devices, and motorcycles to protect safe and equitable access for all users, including individuals with disabilities. Whereas the Waxhaw Board of Commissioners find it necessary to promote safety, welfare, and convenience of pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists using the public streets and sidewalks of the town with the authority allowed by General Statute 160A-174, 160A-175, 160A-296, and 160A-300. Whereas the town seeks to establish clear rules governing the operation of bicycles, skateboards, rollerblades, scooters, and similar recreational devices on town streets, sidewalks, and public areas. And whereas the Board of Commissioners hereby repeals certain ordinances adopted on July 14th, 1993, August 14th, 1995, December 14th, 1998, and July 7th, 2014, regulating bicycles, skateboards, and similar recreational devices on public streets and sidewalks. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Waxhaw Board of Commissioners of the Town of Waxhaw, North Carolina, that Chapter 66, Sections 66 through 55 and 66 through 56 of the Town Code is hereby amended as follows. Section 1, definitions for the purpose of this ordinance. Bicycle shall mean any human-powered vehicle with 2 or more wheels designed for transportation. B, Class 1 and 2 electrical bicycle or e-bike with pedals electric assisted bicycles shall mean a bicycle with 2 or 3 wheels that is equipped with a seat or saddle for use by the rider, fully operable pedals for human propulsion, and an integrated electric motor of not more than 750 watts that can assist the rider's pedaling, whose maximum speed on a level surface when powered solely by such motor is no greater than 20 miles per hour. E-bikes are not subject to registration, licensing, or insurance requirements that apply to motor vehicles. C, moped/scooter shall mean any gas or electric powered vehicle with an integrated motor greater than 750 watts or up to 50 cc piston displacement with which cannot propel the vehicle at a speed greater than 30 miles per hour on a level surface.
Commissioner, excuse me. I do want to save your voice. This is not necessary. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we were simply reading
the whereases?
Well, just a quick synopsis. We have adopted this ordinance through the vote. It is approved. We don't have to read this. Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, I appreciate just clarification.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
It's starting to feel like a filibuster.
You could have stopped me a lot earlier.
You're a freshman, no way.
You're new.
Just a very exciting ordinance. I mean,
okay. Sorry to interrupt.
I want to know how it ended. Does the kid get run over by the bike or not? All righty, next up.
Somewhere Lieutenant Womack is laughing very hard.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. This is the second hearing, I guess you would say, for the text amendment, native plant requirements, tree preservation, tree species list update. These are chapters 8.3, 8.10, and 8.14, I believe. I'm not going to go through all this. I think you guys have seen this enough right now. I do want to highlight the one section that we mentioned that we would change based on your comments last time, and that is the tree species list. We are providing that in the document in the LDC again, along with a clause down there at the bottom. The following tree species list is administratively updated as amendments are made to Union County Agricultural Extension recommended species list. Planning staff does recommend adoption of TA 2020-25 as presented. And on October 29th, the Planning Board also unanimously recommended adoption of this ordinance as well. Since this is part of the LDC, we would greatly prefer that you read a reasonable and consistency statement should you choose to adopt this ordinance.
Any questions or comments from the board? Very well then. Could I get a motion to adopt text amendment TA 020-2025?
Motion to approve text amendment TA 020-2025 with the reasonable and consistency statement. The text amendment request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future planning goals of the town of Waxhaw, and it is reasonable and in the public interest as text amendments provides needed updates to the land development code that strengthens planting requirements, offers planting specifics to meeting tree preservation standards, and allows administrative management of the town's tree species list.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion carries.
Thank you.
Alrighty, next up we have text amendment TA 021-2025, special use permits. Mike has to read this one.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, similar process with this. You saw this at the same time as the previous amendment. This is for our process with special use permits. We don't get a lot of those. But the current process that we have isn't really consistent with state statute or common practice in the state because these are quasi-judicial in nature. So really what this does is it takes special use permits out of the the neighborhood meeting and the planning board review. These instead will come directly to the Board of Commissioners. We have kept these as presented previously and not made any changes to it since then. Planning staff does recommend adoption of TA 21-2025 as presented. And then also on October 29th, planning board meeting, the board voted unanimously to recommend approval of TA 21-2025 to the Board of Commissioners. Similar to the previous item, we do recommend a statement of reasonableness and consistency should you choose to adopt this.
Any questions or comments from the board? Nope. It's well covered in our last work session as well. Going smoothly, thank you. Could I get then a motion to adopt text amendment TA 021-2025?
Yes, motion to approve proposed tax amendment TA 021-2025, amending chapters 2 and 3 related to the special use permit process.
And the reasonableness and consistency statement, please.
We'll get some more stuff to read. Good. The text amendment request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future planning goals of the town of Waxhaw. It is reasonable and in the public interest as the text amendment provides an update to the special use permit process to ensure the quasi-judicial proceeding remains free of hearsay and partiality. Requested actions: consider a motion of approval, denial, or approval with amendments, and a reasonableness and consistency statement to accompany decision.
Can I get a motion to approve? So moved. That was the motion, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving right along. Next up, we have a second reading proposed amendments to ordinance 2026-004.
Good evening. This is, as we talked last time when you amended the capital improvement budget for this year, you made adjustments to then create separate capital project ordinances. And this is one of them. So you have three of them here tonight. One is Bond Grove, which I'll talk about here in a sec. And then the other will be the Helms Road project, and the third will be the Broome Street project. So what this does, again, as a reminder to the board, is that you're removing them from your CIP. You're moving the cash into separate capital fund projects so that they can track over fiscal years and not be constrained by your fiscal year and only be constrained by the limits of the project themselves. This is cleaner and more effective and allows time for the project and for other interruptions that generally happen in projects. The one for Bond Grove is a simple one. It is a $355,000 transfer to the North Carolina Department of Transportation for intersection improvements at NC 16 and Bond Grove Church Road. So in the ordinance itself, it defines that number where the project is going to happen. It directs and authorizes both myself as the budget officer and the finance director to go ahead and make that payment work at the appropriate time. And this is the second reading, so you will have a separate, so when you get audited next year, it'll show up in a separate line item towards the bottom when we do the financial reports. Can I answer any questions?
Any comments or questions from the board on this matter? Hearing none, do we have to read this? Hearing none again, could I ask for your approval of ordinance 2026-004?
Yeah, motion to approve ordinance 2026-004 to establish a grant project fund for Bonds Grove Church Road U5769AA Fund 407.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion carries. Next up, we have the second reading of the Helms Road extension. Is there anything to add on this, Scott?
Yes, you're going to have two. So I'm going to talk about the capital project ordinance, as I just talked about Bond Grove, which is a separate capital project ordinance. And then you'll have another action this evening, the ability to enter into the contract with the North Carolina Department of Transportation via our relationship with CARPO. Did I get that right, James? Thank you. To engage that project. So you've already appropriated money on Helms for design. That's what that contract will be about. This creates a project, like we said before. It moves it out of your CIP into its own standalone capital project ordinance, and it allows that flexibility over fiscal years, and allows it to move with the project as it moves forward. So being specific about Helms Road, for those who may not be familiar, Helms Road is the flyover on the Parkway East? West. I can't figure out east or west here, I'm sorry. On east, but it is the flyover that then goes over. That design is what happens next, and then that project will then connect with 75 on the south side of 75.
To fly over the railroad tracks.
The fly over the railroad tracks, right.
Yes, over the tracks and over the road and horseshoe
Yes.
back around to the road.
So that creates a separate fund. It authorizes in the ordinance that you have in front of you, it authorizes the budget officer, myself, and the finance director to create a separate fund. We'll do that to move monies around, to put them in position. So you're moving both current assets, cash coming in, and then future as well into that project. We contribute, so the public understands that we're contributing 50% to this portion of that project. So it's got a construction phase, a design phase, and a right-of-way phase. Not in that order. I don't think you're going to construct it and then design it, but you could. So, but those are the component parts for that. The other thing it does by doing this, just so we're clear and the board feels comfortable with this, is you're creating and you're obligating and you're charging me as your budget officer to make sure that I put those dollars in there to comply with that project at future times. So that's the other thing that it charges me to do and deliver that to you in the budget. So this is a very big project. It's about a $10 million plus, of which we're responsible for 50%, and the Department of Transportation, federal dollars through the Department of Transportation, are then used to fund the balance. James, did I do okay? Thank you. I have to look back for the approval from the person who actually knows how to do this stuff.
Any comments or questions from the board then? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the proposed ordinance ORD 2026-005 for the Helms Road extension?
I can make a motion to adopt ordinance ORD 2026-005, establishing grant project fund 406.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion carries. Next time, we'll make you read the general statute regarding fund transfers. Let's see here. What do we have? We have the second reading of the proposed amendments to 2026-005. We already did. That's the one. Yes. Sorry, we are on number 8 now. We are on the adoption of the proposed Board of Commissioner rules and procedures. Ms. Barbie.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So you have seen these rules of procedure a couple of times. You reviewed them during your work session on January the 27th. And the purpose of the amendments is to propose revisions for formatting, updates to improve clarity and consistency, as well as adjustments to meeting-related procedures to reflect your current practices, as well as maintaining the overall procedural alignment. So the procedural changes are incorporated as formatting corrections, organizational adjustments intended to enhance the clarity, improve the consistency throughout the document, and align sections structured with the board's, with your current procedural framework. So your first corrections and revisions are in your meeting types. You chose to remove the work session from rule number 8, which is special meetings. Historically, the work sessions were conducted as special meetings, so now you want to have those as your regular second meeting. So Rule 7 gives you that option to do that. We've removed it from Rule 8. As well as we've revised for clarity your recess meetings, so that gives you a little bit more consistency when you need to recess a current meeting to another date or time. The next revisions is in your order of business. So when we make a correction in the structure of the document, then we have to correct it on your order of business, because that is the framework for your agenda. So we've added the work session as a meeting. So you have your commencement, your business items, Board of Commissioner comments, general comments, and you're looking ahead and adjournment in your work session. You still continue to carry the same items that you have for your regular meeting, which is what we're doing tonight. Any questions on that?
Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, then, can I get a motion to adopt the Board of Commissioners rules and procedures as they have been edited?
Motion to adopt the Board of Commissioners rules and procedures superseding all previously adopted versions and amendments.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have the proposed Organizational Advisory Board rules and procedures as well.
So these rules have not been updated since the day that they were established. So it's always a good idea for you to review them and update them based on your current practice. You reviewed these also at your work session on the 27th. These are amended based on new format, so they're easier to read, and the new practice that you have agreed to do, where up to 2 commissioners will serve as a member on the OAB for the appointments, as well as maintaining the alignment of the current document and the practices of the OAB. And that's the Organization Advisory Board, which is also the ones that interview, review, and make recommendations to you for advisory board appointments. So the first is in your appointments and terms. It's your membership composition. So basically what we did was we added up to 2 members, which is the Board of Commissioners. Every member serves a 3-year term based on how the board appoints them to that board. So in addition to your 6 appointed members and up to your 2 members of the Board of Commissioners, you may serve as ex officio of this board. And what this will do is you will review all the applications, you'll conduct interviews along with the OAB, and you'll attend the initial meetings of the OAB when we start that process in August. So the next is the representation. The board composition is currently made up of the chairs and vice chairs and a designee of the 7 advisory boards. And the reason why we have 7 now is we have a youth council. So they will have a representative on there. So all the other boards will have a representative on the OAB. And so over to the right side is the list of advisory boards that we pull members to serve on the OAB. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from the board? All righty. Hearing none, then, can I get a motion to adopt the Organizational Advisory Board rules and procedures?
Motion to adopt the Organizational Advisory Board's rules and procedures, superseding all previously adopted versions and amendments.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Hearing none, this motion carries. Thank you very much, Barbie. Let's see here. Next up, we have some new business. Mr. Scott.
K1.
Good evening. Tonight you have the recommended adoption of a resolution 2026-002, to authorize the advertisement of offer to purchase real property. So that's the official title of it. This is one of the options the board has of, by statute, of releasing property. We received an offer to purchase property off of 7815 Red Oaks Trail. And the portion of property that we're talking about is approximately 130 square feet of an arc of a right-of-way. At the time that the house was built, a retaining wall had to be built. They received a building permit to do that. We don't do as-built surveys. We do initial surveys in our process. And in discovery, as someone was trying to purchase this home, in the deed research, we found that there was about 130 feet that was off. So what this process does is a couple of things. One, as a representative of the town, I've accepted their offer of $900. And then what the board would do is then adopt the resolution, declare the described property as surplus. You would authorize the town clerk to publish a notice of offer to purchase said property and advertise for upset bids. Now, I don't know how, if and who would offer to buy 130 square feet of an arc next to a retaining wall. That's an opinion, but that is the process you go through to release that piece of property to the purchaser, and the purchaser happens to be that piece of property. So it squares their deed, cleans up their deed of trust, and keeps a clear piece of property. Staff has reviewed this. We recommend this to you in this process and recommend this bid to you. Now, what will happen if the board adopts this tonight, we'll post it, and then we will receive by sealed bids, possibly an upset bid. If we don't receive any, then we'll report that back to the board. If we receive something, we will come back to the board with both the upset bid, the original bid for the price, and then the board at their March meeting would decide what it wants to do, and we'll take that next step if that occurs. If there are no other bids for this, the board at that time then can elect to then adopt the second piece of the action, and that would be to transfer that piece of property if it so wishes at that time. Is that clear? Okay.
I just had a question.
Yep, please.
How long is it posted?
10 days.
10 days, okay. That was it.
Yeah, so it goes past your second meeting, so what we'll do is we'll accept it somewhere around the 23rd or the 24th, is that right?
The 10 days would be the March the 1st, I believe. I don't have a calendar in front of me. So that's a Saturday. If you open the bids on the 27th, the 28th, is February the 28th would be the 10 days that notice would be in the paper. So if you can open those bids on the Tuesday, on the Monday, which is March the 2nd,
right,
which will allow you that
ample
time frame before the board.
So we'll comply with the law, and we'll do that, and then we would bring that back at the March 10th meeting.
Makes sense. Alrighty then. Can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 2026-002, authorizing the advertisement of offer to purchase?
Motion to adopt Resolution RES 2026-002, declaring the described property surplus and authorizing the town clerk to publish notice to offer to purchase and advertise for upset bids in accordance with NCGS 168-269.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Dodson. Alrighty, next up in new business, we have the first reading of the proposed amendment for the draft ordinance 2026-006 to establish a grant project fund for the Broome Street improvements. Scott, I think you're up again on this one.
Thank you.
Mr. Dodson.
Yes, I am.
That's the draft ordinance.
Yeah, that's draft.
Do you need a copy of it?
Yeah, I've got that. Pull my information. As an Episcopalian, it's like being at church. I'm up, I'm down. If we had a kneeling bench, I'd be all right.
Exactly.
So tonight, what we have is a proposed amendment ordinance. Again, we're creating a separate fund. So it's coming out of your reserve position, your cash position, and out of your current spending. And this is for the Broome, the NC-16, NC-75 Broome Street improvements. So it'll create a new fund, Fund 408. A little background on this project. The town has been designated to receive federal funds administered through the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration in an amount up to and not to exceed $3.6 million, $3.262 million for improvements associated with Broome Street improvements. Now that has a specific label of HL-0115. The project includes corridor improvements along Broome Street, which is NC-16. I did not know that. So now I know that Broome Street is 16. Again, James has been schooling me on a daily basis. So along Broome Street and west-south Main, that's the NC-75 portion. It requires a local match equal to 20% in this project. So it's a better budget for us in terms of match. So 80% of the cost is being done. So we do recommend this. There have been several actions to give our citizens who are watching this and other interested parties who are watching our presentation tonight. What we want folks to understand is that this has been a long process of board action since 2019. So prior, in October of 2022, the Board of Waxhaw adopted a resolution endorsing applications for these improvements on North Broome. The board then included the project within their adopted 23-24 CIP and continually adopted it in subsequent fiscal years, fiscal year 24-25 and 25-26. Then we executed an agreement with NCDOT to do this project. And so these are the prior approvals. Monies have been set aside within designated cash positions of the town. So what you have in front of you for a first reading tonight is the ability, again, as we're trying to clean these projects up, give them their own life, capital project budget, as opposed to it being something you have to continually do in your CIPs and or your regular budget. This creates a Fund 408. It directs myself and the finance director to move those funds around to begin that process. The budget for it is preliminary engineering of around $267,000, which is in your current budget, as is $103,000 for your right-of-way, and then future appropriations of $620,000 for construction. So that's our 20% portion for the total project. Some of these things came in. Another piece of education information for folks, the current 267, we put some of our money into that of current dollars, $95,000 out of your CIP, and then $172,000 came from payments in lieu of. So it came from other projects, other things that were put into this project, other development projects in the town. So this starts that process. You have a lot of approvals behind this. This now cleans it up, puts it in its own capital improvement project. Can I answer any questions about this? This is for a first reading.
Any comments or questions from the board? All righty. Well, thank you very much then. Next up, we have a first reading to authorize staff to execute a memorandum of understanding for the Friends of Waxhaw Park and Trails. Robin Vire, come on down.
Good evening. I'm Robin Vire. I'm the Deputy of Administration for Parks and Rec. And they're working on getting my presentation. There we go. I'm here tonight just to give you a quick update on Friends of Waxhaw Parks and Trails, and also just to discuss the draft Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, that's in your packet. So we have actually not been here for a little bit. Came back in May of 2025, so we're just giving you a quick update of where we are right now. We've actually made some key milestones. So one of those big pieces is our mission and our vision. So our mission, I'll go ahead and read. The Friends of mission is to champion, enhance, and support Waxhaw's parks, trails, open spaces, and cultural assets through community partnerships, volunteerism, fundraising, and educational opportunities that promote connectivity, accessibility, sustainability, creativity, and a shared love of nature, history, and the arts. And our vision is a connected, inclusive, and thriving Waxhaw where parks, trails, and cultural experiences inspire learning, creativity, accessibility, sustainability, and a strong sense of community. That's basically a lot of words, but basically it covers a lot of subjects, and that gives us, the Friends, a group, a chance to advocate and support for a lot of these different things that our community needs. So some of the key milestones are, we came in May, we basically had our first Friends meeting, and then between May and November, we've appointed officers, we got our mission and vision, we did our bylaws, articles, incorporation, everything that needed to get done to get that 501c3 application ready, and we did that application in November, and happy to say that in December, we were officially 501c3 approved, so we are an official organization, and my group knows how excited I am to say that. And then in January, we finalized the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the town and Friends. Like I said, that copy is in your BOC packet. And then we started talking about priorities, projects, fundraising, work plans, all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of getting into the real subjects of it. The MOU, just to kind of mention this, that it kind of gives clear lines between the town and Friends and what that looks like. So this is just kind of an update on our structure. So the board of directors, the minimum we can have is 7, max is 15. Right now we have 11. So we have 2 of our town commissioners, our town manager, Deanna Sabinski, the director of Parks and Rec, myself, 2 PCR members, and 4 community volunteers. Just pointing out that there are 3 members on there that are non-voting, myself, Deanna, and also Scott. The MOU was looked at between our town attorney, ourselves, and also the Friends. So here tonight just to ask to see if we're ready to go ahead and approve that so we can move that forward. Any questions?
Any comments or questions from the board? No? All righty. Well, thank you very much, Robin.
I think there's a motion I need.
Is there a motion?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Can I get a motion to authorize staff to execute the MOU for the Friends of Waxhaw Parks and Trails?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing
Thank
none,
you
this
so
motion
much.
carries.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Robin. Boom. Next up, we have James presenting the municipal agreement with NCDOT and the Helms Road Extension.
Yes, good evening. James Kelly, Traffic and Transportation Engineer. I don't have a presentation for this first item, but the full contract is within your agenda packet. So I am just going to briefly highlight the various sections of the agreement. This will come actually forward to you at your March 10th POC meeting for requested action to execute the agreement, along with the other agreement for design. So this agreement is specific to right-of-way and construction for the Helms Road separated crossing that you've already talked about before. So just to provide you with a brief summary, again, this is fully within your agenda packet for your review, and we're looking for any questions that you may have this evening. Overall, this is for the Helms Road extension, project ID HL0158. And again, this agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration is specific to right-of-way acquisition, utilities, and construction phases of the project. The responsibility of this project will be a locally administered project, which means that the town of Waxhaw shall be responsible for all aspects of the project. And to briefly highlight the sections of this contract, the first section talks about just general provisions. This is your Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act, along with your local public agency responsibility to perform the work. The second section really dives into the scope of projects, which has already been discussed. Third section talks about funding, which we've already gone through as well. Fourth section talks about the period of performance. So the key here is that the municipality, that in this case the town of Waxhaw, has 5 years to complete all work outlined in the agreement from the date of the authorization of federal funds for the initial phase of work. So basically, once we enter into this agreement, we're on a 5-year clock to make sure that we get this done. And if there are any revisions or milestones, those have to be reported to the North Carolina Department of Transportation and ultimately to the Federal Highway Administration if we need to revise those later. Moving on, Section 5 talks about preliminary engineering. In this case is a special case, so the board funded the design outside of the scope of this federal contract, so the board utilized the town's individual funding for design, so we don't have a preliminary engineering design phase with the federal folks on this one. That's specific to just the town, and the reason why the town did that was to gain some points advantages when we submitted the project for a grant a few years ago. Section 6 outlines the professional and engineering services. So even though you don't have federal dollars behind the preliminary engineering phase, you still need to follow the federal process. So we'll outline that at your March 10th meeting on how we've met those requirements. Section 7 talks about planning environmental documentation. 8 moves into the design. 9, right-of-way utilities. 10, your project limits and your right-of-way phase, providing right-of-way guidance along with appraisal requirements that you have to go through. 11 talks about utilities. 12 talks about railroad. Certification, in this case, we're working with the railroad and the North Carolina Department of Transportation, so that process should be fairly simple. Utility phases, right-of-way phases, the engineering estimates, construction authorization and procurement, specifically when it comes to advertisement for bid requirements, construction contract requirements, and awarding the contract. Section 16 talks about the construction, where the department, referring to the Department of Transportation, reserves the right to inspect the project at any point in time. Along with the federal highway folks, they can show up on the site at any point in time and do an inspection, along with any audits to make sure that there's compliance with the contractors on site. 17 talks about closing out the project, and 18 talks about maintenance. So the key point with the maintenance of this section of the Waxhaw Parkway West is that we did not want the town to have a burden in the future as far as maintenance. So as a part of the contract, the Department of Transportation shall assume maintenance responsibilities for the roadway portion of the Helms Road extension. The municipality, at no expense or liability to the department, shall assume all other maintenance responsibilities. So what does that mean? It means that DOT will be maintaining the road, and the town will be maintaining any sidewalk or pedestrian paths within that right-of-way, along with any lighting fixtures and that sort of thing that go along with the encroachment. So that's a huge future cost savings for the town, where the department has agreed to maintain that roadway where we don't have to spend our dollars to maintain it. Section 20 talks about the reporting and records retention. So as a part of this, We have to keep files on record for at least 5 years from the date of payment of the final voucher. So that way, in case if we're audited by the Federal Highway Administration folks, we have all those files on file where they can view it at any point in time up to 5 years of that final voucher. 21 just talks about some other provisions such as indemnification of the department, Civil Rights Act, and some audit requirements, and gift bans and the standard federal requirements there. And then 22 just talks about sunsetting the project and moving forward after the project is complete. So happy to take any questions. I know that was a very brief overview, but that is the outline of this contract. And again, at your next BOC meeting, we'll be asking for action.
Any questions or comments from the board? All righty. Thank you, James.
All right, you're welcome.
And I think you got the last item here, it sounds like. So Safe Streets for All.
Yes, so this last item here is a discussion of the Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A implementation grant. So staff is providing you all, the board, with an update following our January 2026 Waxhaw Safety Task Force meeting, and is seeking board discussion and direction regarding the town's approach to an upcoming SS4A, or Safe Streets and Roads for All, implementation grant opportunity. For those that don't know or who are newer to the board and newer to this process, the Waxhaw Safety Action Plan serves as the town's foundational framework for improving roadway and multimodal safety. The plan identifies the roadway segments in Waxhaw with the greatest safety needs and establishes a prioritized list of projects to address those concerns. It also outlines targeted strategies, including specific actions and performance measures to track progress in improving transportation safety over time. So from a very high-level perspective, this is part 1 of 2 when it comes to the grant. So this is your safety action plan, which is part 1 of the overall grant process that you need to complete in order to move forward to part 2 with the federal folks, which is your implementation grant. So now we're really moving from the planning phase, if you recall that chart from the On the Road series where we talked about planning to programming to design, right-of-way, and construction. Right now, in the big picture here, we're moving from the planning phase to the programming phase. And in front of you, I've provided your adopted safety action plan on 11/17, so you have access to that, so you can dive into that a little bit further. But to briefly recap that, we went through a state of safety report over the past year, community engagement, developed a high entry network. So if you're looking to focus on specific projects, you would focus on that high entry network, and outlining those projects within there. So a little bit more about the implementation grant. So to some of you, this may be a recap. To some of you, this may be new information. But the award maximum that you can apply for with the implementation grant is $25 million, and the award minimum is $2.5 million. I'll note that that's a 20% match requirement, so we'll dive into that a little bit further. And as of right now, we are anticipating that this program will expire this year, so this may just be a one-time opportunity. With that said, though, there is potential that the program is reinstated, but we have no guarantees right now. So really, we're looking at a one-time opportunity for this. Notice of funding opportunity is going to be released at the end of March with a June deadline to submit your application. So some things to keep in mind as we're moving throughout this process is, number one, understanding your audience. So in this case, your audience is not the North Carolina Department of Transportation, it's the United States, the federal folks, Department of Transportation, along with the Trump administration. So this was a part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which moved from the Biden administration to the Trump administration now. And some things have changed with that administration change. So specifically, again, the main focus is on safety, with the added elements of an economic focus, such as return on investment, infrastructure focus, that sort of thing. So really, where can we get the most value for our dollar while creating a unified story that maximizes the town's grant award success? And to just highlight those core SS4A goals, it focuses on Vision Zero, which is achieving 0 roadway deaths and serious injuries through a safe system approach. So designing roads to anticipate human error, and so folks can recover from those errors and not get seriously injured or killed. It also involves comprehensive planning by funding these safety action plans that you've already completed, along with the future phase, which is the implementation of safety projects. And the goal here is to protect all users, so motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. And then with the policy influence from the Trump administration, it really focuses in and drills further on safety, with an emphasis on actual action through the implementation project. Some other things that have changed from the Biden administration is removal of DEI and environmental justice climate criteria. This actually helps smaller communities like Waxhaw, whereas before, like larger urban communities had a significant advantage. So this helps with that, along with helps to streamline the process. So this is a plus for smaller towns and communities like Waxhaw. And again, it's really focusing in on that big, beautiful infrastructure bill with economic impact is a plus. So when the task force met, we really focused in on the downtown vicinity because your downtown provides you with the highest safety value. It aligns with the SS4A goals. It has plenty of documented crash history and high injury collisions there. There's a concentration of vehicles and pedestrian activity. And you can prioritize a multitude of projects through here. So you can really make the most out of your dollar here by aligning those projects. And again, your downtown focusing in on this unified story will help to maximize your grant award success while focusing in on those three key elements: safety, economic, specifically return on investment, and infrastructure. And I'll just note that the implementation grant activities must include implementing roadway safety strategies and projects identified within your action plan. So if you decided to make any changes, which you are able to do, you must make sure that those are included within your safety action plan, because if they're not, then it's not eligible when you move forward. So back when the Safety Task Force met on January 6th, we really had one goal in mind, which was to create a list of projects to recommend to you all in preparation for a grant submittal based upon your adopted safety action plan. And in this table below, I've highlighted the breakdown of what that would look like as far as the federal matches, the town matches, and the annual commitments at each level. Again, ranking from a minimum of $2.5 million total grant amount to a maximum of $25 million total grant amount. So this next part here is going to look pretty large in the sense, and I'll note before I jump into it, the board reserves the sole right to modify the project scopes, including additions or reductions. I'll just note again that any added projects must be included within your adopted Waxhaw Safety Action Plan. So when the Safety Task Force looked at this in the surrounding downtown vicinity, a few projects came to mind, specifically the Howie Mine Road sidewalk. We know that's a legacy issue project there with several severe injuries reported and recorded in that area. The really downtown south of Main Street and north of Main Street, so basically your entire downtown core was grouped together with a bunch of projects. And then along with the North Church Street vehicular connection. I'll just note that these cost estimates are highly conservative, which means that there's a lot of contingency built in. So these are high to begin with. So these cost estimates reflect planning level estimates. They're not engineered estimates at this stage, which includes all costs associated with the project, such as planning and design, acquiring the right-of-way, utility relocation consultant fees, construction and permits, et cetera, with a large contingency built in, because we simply just don't know what you guys want to focus in on, and that's what we're trying to learn more about. The cost estimates reflect a comprehensive safety-focused approach. So here comes that language that we're adding in that we discussed last time, as far as focusing in on who our audience is. So with these corridor projects, even though one may be a vehicular project or one may be a pedestrian corridor project, it really is a comprehensive safety-focused approach, which would include sidewalks as well as roadway infrastructure upgrades that, and here's the key, that maintain or improve vehicular capacity while being designed to reduce fatalities and serious injuries. So along with the policy updates from the administration, there is a hostile to cars restriction, so there's project scrutiny. If you're reducing lane capacity, we're not doing that. In fact, we may be adding lane capacity in some cases or maintaining that. Again, focusing in on some of that language, these projects may include widening narrow roads, increasing road shoulder recovery widths, accommodating for road drainage structures, ensuring ADA compliance and safe access to parking, or perhaps even more parking added on, lighting improvements, safety-focused road structure improvements, and improving intersections and pedestrian crossings. So it's really an all comprehensive approach there. If you go with the recommendation, which is large to begin with, and I'm sure that you'll want to work that down a little bit, it would look like it would be about $728,000 annual commitment for 5 years. That's what your share would break down to with the recommended from the Safety Task Force. But this is where we need to get some more information from you all. So we recognize that this is a very, very large investment, and we must be fiscally responsible. So a few questions from the board to help facilitate some of the discussion is, what projects are you most interested in currently? And, maybe what projects are you not so interested in? And then also, how would you like for staff to proceed considering our timeframes here, noting that the NOFO is expected to be released at the end of March, and staff really needs some direction from you all by the March 10th BOC meeting to have sufficient time to coordinate with we're utilizing the North Carolina League of Municipalities on the grant writing submission application. So as a part of your NCLM services that you have, the League provides grant writing services for this application. So that's a plus and a cost savings opportunity there. And we do have a future board resolution and memorandum that if you do decide to proceed, that we'll have to present that information to you all from the League of Municipalities. But really, that's really included within your existing membership there as far as some of those fees. So, and then, of course, are you against looking at this in more detail at your February 24th work session to determine project scopes and final selection? So this is a lot of information being thrown at you. We understand that, and would you like to explore it a little bit further? So,
I think I don't know if I speak for the entire board, but I think this is a perfect item for a work session to kind of go through this long list of projects and the potential impact therein. So, thoughts from the board?
No, I think that's important. I'm the only one on the board that was part of the task force, so it's a lot of money, and so we want to be able to hone in on what we really need and what we can really afford. Because the slide that you brought up about over the 728,000, well, that says spread across 5 years, but that's yearly commitment.
That's yearly.
Year,
right. So, okay,
that's
because
a very, very large commitment, yeah.
At first I was like, oh, spread over 5 years, that's not so bad, right? But it's really a yearly per year. So.
Yeah, that's nearly 2 cents.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, I'd like to see the Howie Mine sidewalks. I think that's important. But again, I think we're going to need a work session to really hone in on what we need.
Any other comments?
I was interested in what you said, about how removal of DEI, environmental justice, climate criteria is especially helpful to smaller towns. Is that just because larger ones have the bureaucracy in place already to deal with those kinds of demands?
Short answer is yes. Longer answer is, a lot of the more urban metropolis communities, they focus in on that environmental justice and climate criteria, and they have a lot more support there when it comes to those sorts of things. So, and of course, when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So removal of that helps to streamline. In this case, it works in our benefit for smaller communities like Waxhaw.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All righty. So I look forward to seeing this at our next work session, it sounds like.
If that's your direction.
Yeah.
Yep. All righty. We'll see it at the next work session.
All right. Perfect.
Thanks, James.
Yep.
Yeah, that is a lot of money, and we will have to carefully prioritize that and what quantities we want to commit to moving forward.
Understood. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, James. All righty. Next up, we have leadership reports. Scott Datson, what say you?
Can you pull up the finance report? Thank you. This evening, I just want to give a quick overview, brief overview of the financial report as of January 31st. These are unaudited financials as of January 31st. Some takeaways for you folks is that our operating finances are stable with spending slightly below expected levels, about 11%, and revenues tracking above average. But that would be normal for this time of year. The tax receipts come in. Interesting note, though, as you look through the financials for your edification, the January 31st report shows the taxes that we accrue and book on our books, but they're actually a month behind. So instead of confusing the financials and doing some things like that in the February report, when I come back, you'll see how those numbers will adjust up. Those are the majority of our dollars that we receive, well over 50 some odd % of our dollars. That's when they come in. So that's what puts us in a good, stable position. And right now they're on track to meet expectations. The cash position supports ongoing operations, and most capital improvement funds are already committed to approved projects that will occur over the next several years. So that exercise that we went through last month puts you in better order. Once the audit comes in, we'll take another set of adjustments with the board so that those actions are verified and those monies are placed against projects that you have committed to over time. And then we'll go into the budget process. So then we'll talk about what it takes year over year to finish projects as well. So January financial looks good. Let's see how good it looks. Now, there's a reason I call this state collected, other, and county. What I'm trying to emphasize in county is that the county collects our property taxes. We then pay them to be our tax collector for us. So real and personal property taxes are collected by the county. That represents 53% of our budget, the majority. State collected taxes are other taxes that are collected that while they may be collected at a place of business, they still go to the state. The state then redistributes back. And they are lagging usually about 1 to 2 quarters behind. We do end up getting 98% plus of those things, but they're always lagging. We're allowed to account for those at the end of the budgetary year and include them in here. But that does affect your your cash position. Local fees and charges such as permitting, investments, fees for service, we have very few of those, but they represent about 10%. So where are we right now? Year-to-date actual, around 17 million, about close to 18 million out of a $26 million budget, so we've collected around 68%. Our expenses are at 49 at the end of January. So our target for the month of January would be about 58.3%. So we're both spending below and receiving revenues ahead. Again, understanding that those are one-time, halfway through the year monies, and they have to support us for the rest of the year. But our cash on hand is 40 million. So of those revenues collected in from the county, we've collected about 87% as of the end of December, more or less. It gets reported in your January report. We have, Union County does a very good job of tax collection, and we have generally gotten around 99%, 98, 99% of all collected within the fiscal year. The rest of it comes over time. But they do a very good job of their collections. The state revenues, as I told you, always have a laggard. They're at about 39% right now. So we're at a total of about 68% of revenues collected. So this is what your cash flow by funds look like. We separate them into 2 different categories, one by banks and then one by funds. We're a modified accrual, so we do fund accounting here, but we also have bank accounts. Those numbers have to add up at the bottom and equal each other, hopefully, and they do. Our finance team does a really good job of making sure that is done. So right now in our general fund, we have around 28.5 million Capital reserve funds are sitting at about 5.2 million. Our building inspections are holding steady at 635. Now that's pretty good considering we have not received a permit for new construction in housing or commercial for about 3 months. So we are in an off period time right now for the last 3 months. But we had a lot of COs issued. So when you get the next building report, you'll see that while building permits were down, things were getting completed. And that's really when, for us, services begin to be delivered, is when a CO is issued, a house is sold, that's when taxes reconcile themselves, services are usually demanded, and those kinds of things. So the COs have been coming in pretty strong for completed projects. And that's both commercial and residential. Our cash flow by banks now, I just try to highlight 2 funds for you because these are 2 that we try to track, have a trending ability to them. We have a Powell Trust Fund that sits in a bank account that has held steady at about $211,000. And then our Truist Operating, that's our cash on hand, that's what we make payroll with, we do accounts payable with, is holding very strong at about 3.6 million. Started the year at 2.3 million. We're sitting at 3.6. It'll probably even back in that trend back towards about 2.5, if not better, at the beginning of the year. We try to hold outside of putting into investment banks for investment return on interest. We try to keep around 5 million on hand for our operating. We have about a 1.5 million a month inflow outflow of cash. So on a normal operating, that's payroll, that's payables, and those kinds of things. In our CIP fund, we've gone through this. You've done some actions tonight to create these separate funds, which we believe better accounts for the money. It allows for more flexibility as the projects take on a life of their own when it comes to time. That doesn't always respect your fiscal year. So we've got those in order. We know where those are. This is our CIP cash reserve position. We have about 11 million in cash on hand in CIP reserve, committed to projects about 9.6 million. So those are designated funds. When you pull them into your budget, you're appropriating them or allocating them. Future obligations do exceed cash, and that's not to be unexpected as you go through. Your cash position does build over time. As you can see in the trends, and this is something I want to also emphasize, your department managers here in the town do a very good job of managing their budgets and not exceeding the the appropriations that you give to them to carry out services. They do a very good job of keeping those numbers under that number. Your revenues have traditionally exceeded that by a slight amount. That is what creates your fund balance. That's what creates your savings account. So yes, we do have the cost of capital projects are exceeding, about 9.6 million marked in that last slide. Let's look at that one more time. They're committed to projects out of your cash on hand. Once the audit comes in for last year's budget, we'll come back to the board and we'll talk about some reallocation of where we want these things and designate. That number will then change on the committed to projects list. You'll know where you're at. When I develop the budget with the department managers, I'll be able to come back to the board with those numbers being solid. You will have seen them throughout the year. That's kind of the process. So while I'm a worrier, I'm not too worried. I think we'll get there. But we do have big obligations. I mean, the cost of doing business is increasing, both for people and capital and materials and supplies. It's just, it's not, CIP is, in its more classic sense, is just not ebbing much below 3. It's holding steady around there, and it's, remember, that's built on top of the last 3. So yeah, cost or more. So here's your balance sheet right now. That just gives you your status. Those there, you can see up there on the report, those are your balances that sit in each of your funds. Fund 403, you've got 5.2 million. Transportation small fund, you've got about 975,000. That fund, just for your education, is funded by, we have a license tax that we do on vehicles in the town. That money comes back to you and it goes into these small project funds. This is doing Bond Grove right now. This is how you move that money around. And then you have around 975,000 for future projects and other smaller things that may come up. And yeah, that has board discretion as you move forward. From your CIP, you've moved money. That's what that 750,000 in brackets means. It just means that I moved that from your general fund over into there. You did that with an action at the last meeting. And then these are your separate funds. So where it says, for example, Kensington has been a standalone project 14, 15 years? I've been told about 10. Okay, I'm off by 4. So it's been around for a long time, and that's like that separate fund, and now you can see you have Fund 407, 406, you'll have 408 on there. That is because some of these projects just take an enormously long amount of time, either because of other funding allocation, cost, priorities from our partners, however they may turn out. So again, that's that 11,223,000. That is your cash on hand. Of that, you've reserved about 9.6 million. Okay, so you've designated those for projects. And then this is a breakdown of those projects a little bit more. You can see Broome up there, Roundabout on 75, Millbridge Parkway, Kensington, Pine Oak Signal. That'll project will be starting rather soon, I believe. Is that correct? April. You've got Helms up there, what you've designated Bond Grove Church. That's the other side, I believe. Thank you. So there's 2 Bond Groves. I keep getting them confused, but that's the other one. And then in red, you have your deficits right now. If you had asked me last year, your deficits would have looked different. They would have had different project lists. They would have looked different last year. So those are subject to change as we go along. So this is just a recap on what you're doing. There's the Broome Street improvements, and that is something that the board did tonight. I wanted to highlight it in the financial report because these become a record for you folks over time. As you go through it, it becomes an education process for both the public and yourselves as we go into budget season. And so I try to include as much information in there as I can. So to give you background, citizens have questions, you can go to these materials and report back to them. That's that project right there. There's that 990 out of that total amount. That's that 20% for that new Fund 408 that you read for a first time this evening. So that is the end of the financial report. Can I answer any questions as to where you are right now?
Any questions from the board?
You mentioned about, well, first of all, thank you. I think you're doing a great job with breaking all of this down, and I love the graphs and all the numbers and everything. You mentioned about that, obviously it's over multiple years that we save up for these different projects, and you said you worry a little, but not too much. Is there a chance maybe and maybe this is a budget session thing, to get projections of, I don't know how confident you feel about, how solid those numbers would be in the future, but just to get some idea of how on track we are?
What makes me feel better is when the audit, remember that the audit is behind by state direction this year. Nobody's getting their audits until the end of this month. February 16th, I believe, is their drop dead date because of Helene. So we're behind. You would normally have had this back in December. I believe when we do that, and we intend to come back to the board and show you where your new cash position is right now. And in your audit on your statement of net balance and your net statement of activities, you have two funds. One is designated. That's what I spend a lot of time talking about. In other words, we've designated it for something. What grows is your undesignated. When that audit comes in, we'll come back to you and say, we make a recommendation to move some of those money down into designated positions, while still trying to maintain enough cash on hand for things and emergencies and all the other state statutes that we have to do to stabilize your funds. So we'll do that, but we'll come back. What I can't do is guarantee how much that is yet. So once we have that conversation with the auditor and come back to the board, we want you to be part of that process towards designation. That will solve some of your future problems. That's first off. Once we get past that, when I go into budget, then I know how much to recommend in current year needs for dollars, both in your general fund and then in your CIP fund. So try to take the guessing out of it, try to be more actual about it. And basically after the end of that, then I can give you a better prediction about where we're short and what we have to do to get there. Does that answer your question sufficiently?
Yeah, and obviously further ahead in the future is more and more vague, but the more we can do to look in the future, I think would be helpful.
I think one of the other reasons for giving it to you in this style and in this kind of presentation is it took a lot of years to get to here where you're at right now. It took growth, it took discipline and budgeting, it took other kinds of opportunities, grants, other things have happened over time. I think one of the things I'll want to do in the budget is show you a history and where we need to be and make recommendations towards policy about how much do you want to allocate and set aside. That is a policy decision of the board. How much how do you want to create that? Let's talk about, like, for example, rolling stock. One of the ways to fund future rolling stock, I'm sure Michael does this on the private side. We've had conversations about, he maintains a lot of capital, a lot of people and things like that, is to fund depreciation, for example. So a lot of times you'll fund that depreciating scale in a way with current dollars so that when the truck is now finally done, you have money in reserve to pay for it. That's one way to deal with rolling stock. Other current and unfixed assets like microphones, other kinds of parts of your building, furniture, IT and things like that, you'll fund in a different way. They depreciate differently. So you might, that schedule may be too aggressive, but you can fund that. Larger capital projects are based upon should be based upon the CIP. So that's why the board has traditionally adopted or rolled forward its 5-year plan. So that really is a board policy discussion. So you're rolling your CIP forward, anticipating that you have future needs. So that'll also be part of your policy process. It's a multifaceted answer to that.
Anything else from the board?
Mr. Mayor, one question.
Please.
Scott, so after the audit and funds are designated, that should reduce or give us a better snapshot of the deficit, correct? Those
Yes.
numbers.
Yes. Yeah, you'll have a better idea at that point in time.
Gotcha.
Because you'll move monies from one fund to the other. I can't do that without board action. So.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Great. Any other comments from the board at this time? All righty, hearing none then. Looking ahead, the Board of Commissioners, we have our next work session. It'll be our second work session. Will be February 24th at 6:30 p.m. in the board chambers. So look forward to seeing that. And without further ado, could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you.